Buffalo Bill Cody earned his nickname by hunting and killing over 4,000 buffalo, and his status as an Old West legend was cemented with his traveling Wild West show. But who was Buffalo Bill Cody? Born near LeClaire in Scott County, Iowa, in 1846, Buffalo Bill rode on the Pony Express at the age of 14. He also fought in the American Civil War, serving as a scout for the Army, and was already on Old West legend before mounting his famous Wild West show, which traveled the United States and Europe. Cody's father, Isaac, moved his family from their farm near LeClaire, Iowa, on the Mississippi River, to Kansas, where he operated a trading post near the Kickapoo Indian Agency. At the time, Kansas was engulfed in a violent struggle between those who opposed slavery and those who supported it. While delivering an anti-slavery speech, Isaac was stabbed, and he ultimately succumbed to his wounds 3 years later, in 1857. To support his family, Cody had already begun working at the age of 9 for the Russell, Majors and Waddell Freight Company, where he made use of his skills as a horseman. In 1857, Cody came to be celebrated as the youngest Indian fighter on the Great Plains after he killed a Native American who helped attack the cattle drive on which Cody was working. On the same cattle drive, Cody met the young Wild Bill Hickok, who intervened on his side in a fight Cody was having with an older man. Although Cody's name does not appear in the official records of the Pony Express, there is significant evidence that he served 2 tours of duty as a rider. Cody was 14 years old when he began riding for the Pony Express in the spring of 1860, but because he had already delivered messages between wagon trains for Russell, Majors and Waddell, he was initially assigned a short 45-mile run. While some of Cody's exploits as a rider were the creations of publicity agents, there was no doubt about the courage and dedication he showed while in the service of the Pony Express. Of particular note was a dramatic round-trip ride of some 300 miles in Wyoming between Red Butte Station and Pacific Springs Station, on which Cody completed not only his own leg but those of missing relief riders. A sleepless odyssey of nearly 22 continuous hours of riding. On another legendary ride, Cody outran Sioux warriors to Three Crossings Station, Wyoming, only to find the station keeper dead and the horses were stolen. He narrowly escaped to the next station, but after arriving there, he gathered and led a group of men against the Indians, surprising them at their camp and retaking the stolen horses. Cody's cunning was the centerpiece of another often recounted episode in which, called upon to deliver a large sum of money and fearing that he would be robbed, he hid the currency under his saddle blanket and stuffed paper into his Pony Express mochila. When he was indeed held at gunpoint, he threw the treasureless mochila at the bandits and then made good his escape. During the Civil War, Cody first served as a Union scout in campaigns against the Kiowa and Comanche, and later enlisted with the 7th Kansas Cavalry, which saw action in Missouri and Tennessee. After the war, he worked for the U.S. Army as a civilian scout and dispatched bearer out of Fort Ellsworth in Kansas. From 1867 to 68, he hunted buffalo to feed construction crews on the Union Pacific Railroad. During this time, he is said to have slaughtered some 4,280 head of buffalo, and he soon became known as the champion buffalo killer of the Great Plains. Cody acquired a reputation not only for accurate marksmanship but also for total recall of the vast terrain he had traversed, knowledge of Indian ways, courage, and endurance. He was in demand as a scout and guide, mostly for the U.S. 5th Cavalry, throughout much of the government's attempt to wipe out Indian resistance to the settlement of the land west of the Mississippi River. In 1872, Gen. Philip Sheridan arranged for Cody and Lieut. Col. George Armstrong Custer to guide Grand Duke Alexis of Russia on a hunting trip that had been set up by the U.S. Press. Ulysses S. Grant. That same year, Cody, who frequently took dangerous assignments that others refused, was awarded the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions on April 26 as a scout for a contingent of the 3rd Cavalry that was pursuing Indians who had stolen Army horses near Fort McPherson in Nebraska. During the Army service, Cody's reputation continued to grow. In all, he is believed to have engaged in 16 Indian fights, including his much-publicized scalping of the Cheyenne warrior Yellow Hair in Sioux County, Nebraska, which was hailed as a response to the massacre of Custer's command at the Battle of Little Bighorn earlier in the year. Exploits provided choice material not only for newspaper reporters, but also for dime novelists, who transformed the hard-riding, fast-shooting Cody into a Western folk hero. Amongst these early authors were Ned Buntline and Prentice and Graham. Recognizing the financial possibilities inherent in dramatizing the West, Cody was easily persuaded in 1872 to star in Buntline's drama The Scouts of the Prairie. Though his acting was far from polished, he became a superb showman, and his audiences greeted him with overwhelming enthusiasm during his 45-year career as an entertainer. For many years, Cody performed during the winter and continued scouting for the army in the summer or escorting hunting parties to the west. In the process, the line began to blur even further between the scout William F. Cody and the legend and entertainer Buffalo Bill. Indeed, as early as his scalping of yellow hair in 1876, Cody had consciously worn his flamboyant theatrical clothes into battle, later donning the same outfit to recreate his attack on stage. In 1883, Cody, with the help of producer and partner Nate Salisbury, organized his own Wild West show, a spectacular outdoor entertainment with cast of hundreds featuring fancy shooting, hard-riding cowboys, and yelling Indians, along with recreations of a buffalo hunt, the capture of the Deadwood stagecoach, and a Pony Express ride. Its stars included Annie Oakley, the famous rifle shot, and in 1885, Chief Sitting Bull. The show played at Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee in 1887 and was staged throughout Europe. In 1893, 3 million people attended the show during its tenure on the Midway adjacent to the official grounds of the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. By the end of the 19th century, Buffalo Bill was one of the most recognized persons in the world. Buffalo Bill continued to perform his Wild West show until 1916, although at the age of 76. He often had to be helped onto his horse backstage. While Buffalo Bill's exhibition was extremely popular in the United States and abroad, in the end largely through poor investments, including his purchase of an unproductive gold mine, he lost the fortune he had made in show business. His last public appearance occurred just 2 months before his death.